Chair, we're ready.
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting of the Human Services Commission for May 11th, 2021 to order. May I have a pledge of allegiance? Call to order. I think I need a roll call first. Madam Secretary.
All right. Commissioner Byers,
Present.
Commissioner Darvish, Commissioner Darvish.
Oh, here, sorry.
That's okay. Commissioner Meltzer,
Here.
Commissioner Shandrick,
Yes. Hi.
Vice Chair Palmieri,
Here.
Chair Davis.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I would like the Pledge of Allegiance. Who looks like they're up to it? Derek, would you like to lead us off? Just start us off.
Of course I can. All right, everybody. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the
to the
To
flag
the flag of the United
United
States
States of
America,
America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, that wasn't the best one I've ever heard, but thank you, Derek. Okay, and moving right along, we have an installation of a new member. I see Mayor Horvath is with us, so I'm going to turn the meeting over to her.
Well, let me bring my absolute best to this swearing in. Thank you all for having me tonight and for allowing me this honor to swear in your new fellow commissioner. And thank you, most importantly, for the work that you do throughout the year. We've seen in this past year just how critical the work is that you do to keep people safe and cared for, especially in times of crisis. And I thank you very much for the time you dedicate to doing exactly that. So now I will turn to Joy. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Joy Freiberg,
Solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that while serving in the office
that while serving in the office
as a member of the Human Services Commission
as a member of the Human Services Commission
of the City of West Hollywood,
of the City of West Hollywood,
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to the commission, and I will turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Horvath.
My pleasure. Mr. Chair, I think you're on mute.
This moot thing, boy, they should have discovered how to do that in real person as opposed to just on the TV. So anyway, before I move on to the approval of the agenda, I would like to pull the consent calendar item A and move it back to number 5, so it can be discussed later. So I'm gonna, what is that called? A motion to approve the agenda as it is stated now.
Make a motion.
Adam moves. Do I have a second?
Second the motion.
I heard a second. I'm not.
Second.
Oh,
Second the
I'm
motion.
sorry.
Yeah.
Surprised me. So it's been moved and seconded. May I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Commissioner Byers,
Yes.
Commissioner Darvish,
Yes.
Commissioner Freeberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Meltzer,
Yes.
Commissioner Shandrick,
Yes.
Vice Chair Paul Mary,
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's been moved and approved. Now we'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting of April the 13th. Has everyone had a chance to go through them? Are there any corrections that may be needed?
I
Commissioner
found one correction. Thank you. Under the items from commissioners, it was in my comments, I commented the name Dante Wright, and it was just misspelled. There's a U in his first name, Daunte. Thank you.
All right. So may I have a motion to accept the minutes as corrected?
So moved.
So moved.
May I have a second?
A second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the minutes of April, what day was that? The 13th?
Chair,
Okay.
it sounded to me like two commissioners.
Two commissioners.
moved.
Right.
Two commissioners moved it, but I believe Commissioner Byers was first.
Okay, great. And then who seconded the
help?
motion? Yes.
And then Commissioner Darvish seconded.
Thank you.
All right. So may I have a roll call on approval of the minutes as they are?
Sure.
now?
Commissioner Byers,
Yes.
Commissioner Darvish,
Yes.
Commissioner Freeberg.
I wasn't here.
Perfect. Commissioner Meltzer,
Yes.
Commissioner Shandrick.
Abstain.
Thank you. Vice Chair Paul Mary,
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the minutes have been approved. We'll move on to public comment. Do I have any public comment, Jenny?
We have one public comment. Danny Hang, if you wanted to unmute yourself, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, greeting commissioners. My name is Danny Hang, and I'm a member of the City Disabilities Advisory Board. I just wanted to call in tonight to congratulate Commissioner Freiberg on her appointment to the Human Services Commission. Commissioner Freiberg is a driven and passionate community activist who is very knowledgeable about a vast variety of social service causes. Joy, you have contributed so many great ideas to the DAB, and we will miss you, and I look forward to hearing about the continued great work you'll be doing with your esteemed colleagues on the Human Services Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'll miss you.
And thank you. And now we're going to move on to unfinished business. And it's the boards and commissions liaisons, which we've been kicking down the road for several months now. I do want to point out that the list that was provided is the current list, if I can find it. Gosh, here. The list is current from let's say the last part of last year. However, I don't have times or dates for the commissions on me. So if there can be times and dates, do we have such a thing? Or do we need to does everyone have an idea of what they already want to join? Do I see any hands? Commissioner Paul Mary.
If Trans Advisory Board is no longer represented, I would like to be liaison to that. I think it was Sam's, but I'm not positive.
It looks like it was Commissioner Thomas and Commissioner Shandrick.
Oh, I'm sorry, Patrick. If you
No,
want
go.
Okay.
Jimmy, Commissioner Paul Mary, please go ahead.
All right.
Thank you.
Commissioner Byers.
I was public safety, looks like. And then I was going to say I could be a second in Borelli's spot for the Women Advisory Board.
All right. Commissioner Meltzer.
Thank you. I would like to remain on the Senior Advisory Board. I also have an old version of this, which has, if anybody wants, it has the days and times on it, if anybody needs that.
If anybody, all right. So you want to stay where you are? Are you adding anything or taking
do.
anything away?
No, I think that's fine. I
Okay.
think I'll just stay there.
All right. Commissioner Darvish.
Yes. Transportation Commission.
Transportation. Perfect. Perfect. Anything else?
I'll wait. If you don't have any representations, I'll be glad to take on more. Public safety was one, but I think we have enough.
Can we put you as an alternative to public safety?
I would love to be, but yeah.
All right. So anyone else? Commissioner Shandrick?
I am happy to stay on the LGAB.
Okay. Commissioner Freiberg?
I would like to steal a board if I could from Commissioner Palmieri and be on the Disabilities Advisory Board, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, for the, anyone else? Commissioner Byers?
I just had a question. I noticed that there were 3 other commissions, at least on the form that I received, listed that didn't have anybody appointed. Is that for a reason, or were they just unassigned?
I don't have the same one. I have one that has somebody in everyone.
Okay.
They mentioned at the bottom, other commissions, arts and cultural
I
affairs,
see.
That's right.
business license, historic preservation. We didn't have assignments for those 3.
Okay.
However, if anyone would like to volunteer to go to any one of those, we can add that in. Commissioner Byers.
Yeah, I was gonna, arts and cultural affairs.
Arts and cultural affairs. All right.
I have
Commissioner
a question.
Meltzer, question.
Did I hear Commissioner Byers say that she wants to take the Women's Advisory Board?
I said I
Can I
could be an alternate as Borelli is no longer there in that second alternate spot.
Ah, okay.
I didn't want to steal it from you.
Well, you can steal it from me and I'll be the alternate.
All right.
Like it.
Is that agreeable?
Agreeable.
That's agreeable. That's easy. Anyone else? I will take public facilities. Instead of being the alternate, I'll just actually be the guy that goes. That leaves planning and rent stabilization as open. Is there anyone has any interest in either one of those? Commissioner Darvish.
Yes, I can take planning actually. Since we have public safety, I think we have enough.
I think that's enough. That's
Yeah.
good. Rent stabilization. We can leave it open and come back to it later at a later time. Okay, that's where we're going. So, Jenny, do you have all of this information?
And I do, Jenny, if you don't.
Okay,
Great.
that's all I need is that somebody has the information.
I'd like to repeat it though, if you're
That's
open
fine.
to that.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so for Planning Commission, we have Commissioner Darvish as the liaison, no alternate. For the Public Facilities Commission, Chair Davis has offered to be the liaison, no alternate. For Public Safety Commission, Commissioner Byers is the liaison, Commissioner Darvish is the alternate. Chair Davis, did you want to also stay as an alternate for public safety or no?
No.
Okay. Rent Stabilization Commission is open currently. Transportation Commission, we have Commissioner Darvish as the liaison. Commissioner Davis, did you want to remain?
For
Transportation Commission?
no.
Okay, so I have Commissioner Darvish as the liaison, no alternate.
I'll be the alternate.
Commissioner Freiberg, is now the alternate for transportation. The
Right.
Disabilities Advisory Board, I have Commissioner Freiberg as the liaison. Do we have an alternate?
Not at this time.
Okay. The Lesbian and Gay Advisory Board, Commissioner Shandrick is the liaison, no alternate. The Russian Advisory Board, I believe, is open. Chair Davis, you were the alternate.
I can stay as the alternate.
Okay.
It's fine.
Senior Advisory Board, Commissioner Meltzer is the liaison, Chair Davis.
That's fine.
the alternate. Transgender Advisory Board, Commissioner Palmieri, the liaison.
Yes.
Do we have an alternate?
I believe, did Commissioner Shandrick say he would be the alternate, or did he want off of it altogether? I'm sorry, sir.
I can be listed as the alternate, of course.
Give me a list as alternate.
Okay. Women's Advisory Board, Commissioner Byers is the liaison. Commissioner Meltzer, did you want to be the alternate?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
And then at the bottom, we have Arts and Cultural Affairs. Commissioner Byers is the liaison.
Good.
So we'll bring this back to the commission next month, and we'll put the days of the week and the times as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I just, I'd like to just clarify one thing. Commissioner Darvish, did you say you wanted to be taken off as an alternate for public safety because you took on planning?
So Chair Davis is no longer the alternate for public facilities. I see his name on there. That's the reason I said I would get off of it. I didn't want to take his place. For public safety. Yes, it's Chair Davis.
You may do that. I want my name off of that one.
Oh, you do? Okay.
So
Okay, so I'll remain as an alternate, yes.
Does that help, Leslie?
An airplane was going overhead. So I apologize. I was trying hard to hear that.
On public safety, place me with Commissioner Darvish.
For what commission?
Public safety.
I got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Byers.
Just one question. Will we receive calendar notifications from the city as part of this update, or should we plan to put those on our calendar and access those meetings as if a member of the public would?
I think you should plan on attending those as a member of the public would, but I will run that by the city clerk, but I don't think they send them out.
Okay, thank you.
I do know that I have received, I still receive agendas for 2 of the boards, and they come on a fairly regular basis. Even during the pandemic, they've come to me. So it's possible.
So I will run these assignments by the city clerk and see if they can send out the agendas.
All right, everybody is, content. We will move on to the next item, which is new business and the mental health presentations. David, did you want me to introduce each person for each organization, or did you want to do that?
I can give a little intro, and if you're comfortable with me introducing, I can do that.
I'm comfortable, sir. I just don't want to repeat myself.
Okay. So good evening, commissioners. I'm David Juney, the manager of the City Social Services Division. And this presentation was a request from the commission that we put this on the work plan calendar. As we all know, it's very timely. That should be part of the discussion this evening. Just the increase in need for mental health services. So we pulled together a panel of our contracted providers they will each go, we're going to go in alphabetical order, but I'll announce that. They'll each address the programs that their agency provides to West Hollywood community members. They'll talk a little bit about the challenges that COVID presented in providing services, and then talk about the creative ways that they implemented service. So the order that we're going to go with the panel is first AIDS Project Los Angeles, and I believe Lydia Shamrai is here. Following APLA, Jamie Baker from Being Alive. Following that, Marina Berkman from JFS, and then Sean Carpenter from the LA LGBT Center, and then Clifford Roberts from Step Up on Second. And if each of the presenters could keep their presentation portion to approximately 5 to 7 minutes, that would be appreciated. Then we'll turn it back over to the chair for questions of the panelists.
But I'm going to wait until all the panelists are done before we question. Okay.
That would be
Commissioners, if you have a question of presenter A, write it down because it may take a while to get back to you. Okay. Thank you.
So we'll start with Lydia Shamrai. Lydia, are you here this evening?
I'm asking Lydia to unmute and go on camera. Lydia, are you ready to present?
Yeah, just 1 second. It doesn't seem to say that I'm muted.
You are not now.
You're not muted.
It's not saying that I'm muted.
Yes, we have you unmuted to present to the commission.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, I didn't expect to come on so soon. Anyways, I'm with APLA Health in West Hollywood, and we provide outpatient psychotherapy, individual and couples, and some groups. I will screen share on the groups. We have a men intimacy and relationships groups for gay men, and it's run by gay male therapists. Do you want me to just describe the services we provide and then take it from there?
That would be great.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Lydia.
Okay.
And it's nice to see you.
Good to see you. The men relationships and recovery, men intimacy, no, it's men intimacy and relationships. It used to be recovery, but now it's really focusing more on the challenges. It's a gay men's group. The challenges gay men face in forming relationships or maintaining, healthy relationships. We explore things like gender role conditioning and internalized homophobia. Those are some of the things that we explore in the group that might interfere with having a successful relationship. And we're really talking about relationships of all types, friendships, what it's like to have healthy friendships, have healthy boundaries, all that stuff. So that I want to share the flyer for that. Let's see.
She liked to share.
I'm trying to share the flyer for that. Anyways, men relationships and intimacy. And it's a great group where the guys really processing, really opening up with one another, sort of modeling how to be vulnerable with one another and in supportive and caring way. So that is run by Matthew Renz and Bo Dittman. Two of our interns all of our interns now happen to be gay men because there's still quite a demand for gay male therapists. So that's what's happening with our intern program. We also have a mindfulness group. Let's see. I don't know if that's coming up. It's kind of large though. Anyways, I run this with the fellow interns. We practice mindfulness-based stress reduction, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, really helping clients identify triggers and learn to pause before reacting. Those are some of the things that we do. We practice meditations as well. So that's a little bit about the group. Very supportive. Everyone's very supportive of one another in the group. So it's a very good vibe, good feeling. And yes, we are doing all telehealth currently. No live in-person sessions yet. I don't know. They're talking about, APLA Health is talking about doing maybe returning to the office in July or later on in the summer. So that's that. I think most of you know APLA started out as a agency serving the HIV positive community. We, of course, have opened up to seeing clients who are negative as well. We see women as well. So it's a diverse group of people we're seeing. Still predominantly, a lot of services for gay men in our program. And yeah, so it has become more diverse as far as the people that we serve. A little bit about just our individual therapy. Since I've been working from home, I don't have the flyer that just focuses on us, on our psychotherapy program. But this is the revised phone number since our admin assist is just left and will be replaced later, but that is my direct line. It's much easier. I just assign clients, matching them up with a therapist. And that's a 213-201-1369. And I think we have a pretty good team. They're well-trained in working with trauma. I specialize in working with trauma. I'm certified in EMDR and internal family systems. So the interns also get a lot of training. I provide, to some of the clients, provide EMDR or IFS. And, so I'm able to provide that to some of the West Hollywood residents, which is really nice since it's a pricey type of therapy that some of our West Hollywood clients, that are able to actually get in our program. Let's see. This also mentions our other services like dental and benefits and that sort of thing as well. I can't think of. Yes, as far as the dealing with the pandemic, we've seen a lot of clients affected by it, and some of them, not too many people have dropped off because of the telehealth. There's been a little bit of drop off, but most people are fairly comfortable with the telehealth model. But a lot of people are, of course, as you know, very affected by the shutdown, the isolation, working with some clients who were, overcoming their depression and really wanted to open their life up, and then suddenly everything shuts down. That was pretty hard for some people, and some clients losing their jobs, or their jobs being threatened. So, financial anxiety and stress. But I think the isolation has been the biggest one. And clients report since the opening up of the gyms, feeling a lot better. Just many of their clients are, you do utilize the gyms, and exercise is a great way of helping manage their moods. So that is a really positive development and trend in seeing in our clients in the community.
If you're okay, Lydia, I think we'll keep on going down the list, the line.
Okay, sure.
If we have some questions from commissioners later.
Yeah, let me know. Okay, great. Yeah,
Thank
I
you
wasn't
so
sure
much.
how much you wanted me to talk.
That was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll go from there to Jamie Baker with Being Alive.
Hello, everybody. If Lydia could stop sharing her screen, and if it's okay with Commissioner Davis, I have a short presentation to share.
Short is good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm saying it, but I'm muted. Boy, oh boy,
Okay, give me a second here. All right, if everyone can see that okay. First, thank you to everybody. It's lovely to see your faces again. And Derek's hair combed nicely and wearing a tie. We all appreciate your support, your resilience, and just everything you've given throughout this last crazy, weird year that we all hope never happens again. So currently, we have Susan Holt, who works at the LA LGBT Center as well as our clinical director and supervisor, and also Ann Bloom, who is one of our supervisors, and James Sutherland, who's a licensed therapist who is a volunteer therapist with us and is assisting Susan with trainings and that sort of thing. The pictures are accurate except for James. If anyone knows who that is, the therapist will. It's Carl Jung, because I didn't have a picture of James. We currently have 10 therapists, and we should have 14 by the fall. At Being Alive, even though on the books it says we have a 26 session limit, we've never held to that. We have no limit for a number of sessions, which is beneficial for both the client and our therapy trainees, because they actually get to work with somebody and can work through issues and see breakthroughs, which is a fantastic thing for a brand new therapist. Of course, it's no cost for West Hollywood clients. If you're a non-West Hollywood client, the high end of our sliding scale is $20, and the low end goes all the way down to $0. We currently have no wait list, and because we can accept students from a variety of training programs throughout the year, we can fill that summertime gap, which is historically seen a longer wait list during that time period. And we can fill that and make sure we have enough therapists to manage throughout the whole year. Of course, just like everybody, we use the multiple theoretical modalities. Most commonly seems to be psychodynamic, but I'm not a therapist, so I won't talk about what I don't know. We also have couples counseling. Mostly clients are HIV positive. We'll see the negative partner of somebody who's positive, or if somebody is HIV negative and very high risk at becoming positive. Of course, LGBT affirmative, culturally competent and inclusive. To become a mental health patient with us, you have to be a client at Being Alive, and that just means you have to fill out our paperwork. If you have an ID and a proof of diagnosis, that's great. If you don't, we don't turn you away, and we'll work on getting that with you as we go. During the pandemic, we have skipped our intake process. So if somebody calls and says they want a therapist, we will assign them directly to someone. And if for some reason it's not a good fit with that particular therapist, or the person may be beyond our capacity as a training site, then we'll work with them to get properly assigned. But we're trying to streamline everything as much as possible. Of course, all of our appointments went to telehealth back in March of last year. And most people seem to prefer that now. It's much more convenient. I think we only had one person throughout the year say, no, I want to wait until we're back to in-person, and which we will perhaps be able to do later this summer. Our support services that all go along with therapy are the support groups we have, the newly diagnosed group, the long-term survivors group, which I thought would have the most trouble with the Zoom, but they've been the best and most well-attended, consistent group of the bunch, as well as a new women's group, a group that talks about what comes next, meaning I used to be a director and now I am unemployed. What do I do now? And we had a COVID process group for a while. Acupuncture and chiropractic are starting up again. Ceramic Studio is also in the realm of art therapy that has been going fairly consistently. We have our case management and referrals, social activities. We just went to Paris a couple of weeks ago, virtually of course, but it was super fun. We do ADAP enrollment, our new-ish syringe service program that has just expanded into Hollywood, and our weekly CMA meetings. Our new address is no longer in West Hollywood, unfortunately, but we're not too far, at the Savon Clinic on Hollywood Boulevard at the corner of Hollywood and Gower. Just a short walk from Hollywood and Highland, so people in West Hollywood can take the city bus or the 704 and then cut up, so it's not very hard for people to get to us. And that's all I have for you, short and sweet, and I'm happy to answer questions later.
Thank you, Jamie.
My pleasure.
And we will go from Jamie Baker to Marina Berkman with Jewish Family Services. Marina?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everybody. Very good to see you. And I will start with statement that basically West Hollywood Comprehensive Service Center, our main goal is not mental health services, but mostly concrete services, advocacy, referrals, service coordination, and of course, case management is a very big part of what we do. But we do provide supportive counseling to our clients who are in need of that, both for seniors and younger disabled adults who are community members in West Hollywood. At the same time, all of them are eligible to receive mental health services from Jewish Family Service DMH program, which is funded by DMH, and it's called Mental Health Services. And they have clinicians who can used to provide services in the field. They could visit their clients in their homes, meet with them in our office, somewhere in the park. So that's why they are called field services. And this is very specific to, according to the guidelines of Department of Mental Health. What we do, it's more supportive counseling, which addresses things like depression, social isolation, anxiety, grief, and bereavement. And during COVID, it became very, very much requested by our clients due to social isolation and due to the fact that they were anxious and scared to see people and afraid to go anywhere, even to see the doctors. Our clients reported being very depressed, cut off from the world, missing their friends. And the biggest challenge for them was, of course, the lack of technology. Most of our clients, I would say probably 80%, they cannot use computer, they cannot use internet. And for that reason, it was very challenging for us to provide services through telehealth. Only one part of telehealth was available to our social workers, which is talking over the phone. And of course, when you talk over the phone with your client, you miss a lot of information, which is nonverbal communications and nonverbal clues of what actually is happening with your clients. And for that reason, we are looking forward to the day when we will be able to see our clients face to face. Looks like pretty soon we will be allowed, our social workers will be allowed to start making home visits. It's so much more productive when we can talk face to face. Clients are more open, they're more willing to share their troubles. And right now, they are very isolated and they are very, frustrated by the fact that they cannot see us and that we cannot see them. Few of them do have access to technology and they can benefit from seeing their therapist and their social workers on Zoom. Zoom obviously is available to all GFS employees, and all our social workers are using that with the clients who has access to that, either through phones or iPads or computers. There is one more service related to mental health, which we provide, and I really wanted to remind all of our community partners about that. This is the Psychiatric Community Program that is available to West Hollywood residents, not necessarily served by our program. For example, we have very good MOU with McIntyre House, and they refer clients to us, those who need psychiatric help. And if they don't have that, they don't have either insurance or they don't have a psychiatrist they can go to, because, it's not always easy to receive a referral to a psychiatrist. Many of them don't want to accept Medi-Cal. And even for those who are Medi-Medi, it's not always easy to find a psychiatrist. So we have a psychiatrist on contract with us. And basically, those community members who receive services from one of our partnering agencies are eligible to refer their clients who are either in case management or in therapy and need psychotropic medications. They can refer them to us, and you can call us to find out more details about that at our office phone number and leave a message, and someone will return your call, or email me. And my email is easily available from David or John or Leslie, any of them, Diane, Derek, So ask for my email address and email me, and I will answer your questions how to refer people for our psychiatric community program. I think that's mostly it. About one of the innovative approaches that we used was converting our Connect program, which is a volunteer-based program. Before COVID, it was transportation assistance to homebound clients who couldn't go and run their errands without assistance from someone. And volunteers would be coming over, visit them a couple of times a month for a few hours. They would take them shopping and they would take them to post office and you name it. They all formed a very good, friendly relationship, very supportive relationship, because they are always matched with care. When the pandemic started, the volunteers were not able anymore to visit their matches. And after discussing this issue with Diane, we agreed that it would be very beneficial for both volunteers and our clients if they would start providing phone conversation, which will reduce social isolation and provide supportive counseling. And we even, you know, I wanted to say her, but no, we recruited a few peer counselors, people who were trained to provide supportive counseling to their peers. And this is very successful. Our clients are very, very grateful that this is available to them. I think that's in short. I covered most of the mental health services that we provide, and I'm open to any questions from the commissioners at the end.
Thank you, Marina.
We're going from Marina Berkman to Sean Carpenter of the LA LGBT Center. Sean?
Hi, I'm not able to start my video on my end. Oh, there we go. Hi, can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, so I'll just dive right in. I know we got a lot of people kind of presenting. So at the center, mental health services have obviously transitioned to telehealth, similar to other organizations due to the pandemic. So we're continuing to offer individual, couples, family, group, and crisis services, all via telehealth. So that's either phone or video sessions that we're offering to clients. We're also starting to offer, or not starting to, we've been offering EMDR, which I think Lydia mentioned a little bit earlier, or sorry, one of the people that was speaking. But it's a specialized form of therapy that is, again, very costly to get trained in, but and expensive to access for clients. So, and that's, accessible to West Hollywood clients as well. And then we're also training a lot more of our therapists that are currently working at the center in EMDR as well. A couple of the areas in mental health that are worth noting, some of you might be familiar with. Addiction recovery services is one. And so for them, we've formed some new IOP groups in that area. So I think those were kind of affected initially with the pandemic. We had some therapist turnover and there was some scattering among clients. And so they've kind of gotten that back up in shape and running again. And then our Stop Violence program. So we continue to offer the same services that we have been offering in terms of specialized assessments and therapy and other types of interventions for either perpetrators or survivors of domestic violence. And they're also continuing to use grant money to provide housing to assist clients in escaping violent situations. And just to kind of tie in, I'll speak about this more a little bit later, but one of the things that our SVP team noticed as a result of the pandemic was kind of an increase in DV, mainly associated with people kind of not having as many options in terms of leaving because of the pandemic. And so those resources for housing ended up being like especially helpful during this time. And then I wanted to kind of just touch on some of the groups that we offer. We still offer a tremendous number of groups for different identities within the LGBTQ plus community. But some of our newer ones, we have a COVID group for BIPOC. And again, that was kind of born out of this realization that a lot of communities of color were like disproportionately impacted, whether it in access to, whether that was in accessing healthcare or just kind of rates of people contracting the virus in that community. So that's been really popular and needed for sure. We also have a new trans partner group. And so this is a group that's for partners of trans clients. And that's kind of a new thing, a new resource that's available as well. And then one other one is our monolingual Spanish-speaking letter writing group, which is for trans clients who are currently in the process of transitioning. Other services we're continuing to offer, outreach. So homeless outreach in West Hollywood specifically, that has is back to normal operating hours. Luckily, the center was able to get everyone vaccinated. At least 80% of our staff, I think, currently have had both doses. So field outreach is back up to like normal operating hours as it was pre-pandemic, luckily. And then obviously outreach in SDP and ARS is also continuing to go on like it was previously. I'm trying to think of what else might be important to mention. I think maybe just in like generally like kind of speaking to the same points a lot of other people were making, that, you know, I think initially we saw some kind of like dips in folks accessing services like in the initial months of the pandemic. But then interestingly, because I think we were lucky enough to be able to get a form of telehealth up and running for clients, it made accessing services a lot easier. So we were able to kind of reach people that might not otherwise come in for therapy. So if like in person was too much for them. So it's, you know, it's one of those kind of unintended positive outcomes, I think, from this. But yeah, I think that kind of covers the gamut. Obviously, like if any of the commissioners have questions, please just let me know. And thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you, Sean. David, do we have one more?
The final speaker this evening is Clifford Roberts from Step Up on Second.
Yes. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Social service staff, commissioners. First, thank you so much for providing this space for us to all speak about our elective programs, our prospective programs. I am Clifford Roberts, the program manager for both the WehoMIT, which is the West Hollywood Multi-Interdisciplinary Team, and OCS, which is Outreach Social Services, Community Services, which is contracted with DMH and funded by DMH. We are, as I said, a multidisciplinary team. And so we are made up of psychotherapists, myself being one, a licensed clinical social worker, substance abuse counselors, peer advocates who have that lived experience where they can really relate to our client caseload, and people who are experiencing homelessness. We have psychiatric services. So we have a psychiatrist who provides psychotropic medications. And that is part of the service. When an individual becomes enrolled, they will see a psychiatrist be evaluated for psychotropic medication if that is deemed appropriate. And the psychiatrist, Dr. Nguyen, will consult with me regarding most of our clients. We've done this historically. We really try to meet folks where they are at in the street. And I'm going to speak a little bit about that in a few minutes. I want to get right to the point. You're asking about some of the barriers that COVID presented. And I would suggest that it wasn't just COVID. Much like HIV, there is HIV, the disease, and there is the social phenomenon, stigma of HIV. And with COVID, we saw that stigmatized and politicized, which left many of our clients confused. And particularly our LGBTQ plus clients who come out from their families or are, if you will, due to diaspora from their families and not feeling supported, and then feeling stigmatized with the rhetoric that we all had to have endured the last 4 years. So we are trying to provide services, being acutely aware of all of these different levels of trauma that our clients have experienced. Our core values, we really try to integrate when we engage with our open air communities is hope, wellness, voice and choice, and collaborative relationships. And we do this through a culturally competent lens, the best that we can. And the We Omit are made up of really a microcosm of the community, the very communities that we serve. So we have, we're lucky to be able to offer, for example, this happened today, a community member wanted to see a Black therapist. We can provide that. We have a Korean therapist who speaks Korean. We have a therapist who is Latinx, who is Spanish speaking, and also fluent in American Sign Language. We pride ourselves as really using the sense of professional self. So we are the tools to most effectively utilize when we engage with folks who are out in the streets for whatever reason. Really provide folks a lot of space to ebb and flow with us. We have many clients who will not endorse mental health symptoms, who will decline, or I should say, let me sit back and say, many of our folks have been, before engagement, successfully avoided social services and mental health for decades. So we really try to instill a sense of radical acceptance with our and really try to work at a pace where they are at and really take the pulse of where they are coming from, really providing those acute and astute mental health services on the street. So I have sat with clients up on Sunset in front of liquor stores, on buses, on various tributaries in the city of West Hollywood, small ancillary streets, because this is where we find ourselves innovative. And what's so wonderful that the city of West Hollywood recognized Step Up services and that we could provide these unique services in a very professional manner. And we continue to do so, of course, through the pandemic. We did, in modeling appropriate behaviors, comply with CDC and with the state and city mandates. That being said, we were continuing outreach throughout the pandemic because that was our contract with the city of West Hollywood. And we knew that that was not so much an expectation of commissioners, those folks who fund us, but especially of our clients. We engage folks at their homes. We have housed 50 folks who have permanent supportive housing. We engage folks on the street. We help third parties support our individuals. We look forward to providing the CS, the coordinated entry system, to our folks so they can be housed appropriately through the housing navigators. And we continue a slew of services once folks are housed. We often see needs really escalating once people are housed, because oftentimes they feel they're impervious to perhaps the consequences of substance use. Oftentimes substance use goes up. And of course, we have our certified addiction specialists who assist us. One of the things that my team, I have a remarkable team, and I would like to quickly say their names: Mark Radawagen, Sarah Garcia, Nancy Choi, Sarah Benowitz, Naya Davis, Joseph Bond, and Ellie Johnson. We really love collaborating with the other West Hollywood contracted agencies such as Essentia and Housing Works, LGBTQ Center, Being Alive, APLA, really leveraging the expert services that they provide. Some of our challenges, of course, were as has been mentioned, folks feeling isolated during the pandemic. And what we have found to assist folks is to really normalize their feelings. So really providing that space of empathy and reinforcing our folks' own strengths, because we believe that our folks are capable of assisting themselves. We are open in our offices. We recognize as how many of our staff are hesitant and reluctant and concerned and confused about going back into the workspace. So are our clients in engaging in their prospective communities of choice, because there's been so much confusion and unfortunately politicizing of the pandemic. So we are very mindful of that. And our penetrative mental health services are everything from psychodynamic, these are services I provide as well, dialectical behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, solution-focused therapy, the ACT model, which really tries to find that passion that can really pull a person through your trials and tribulations. And let's face it, folks, we all have experienced that. Each of us have experienced those times where we found ourselves at a loss or in those bleak hours. And we oftentimes have been able to pull ourselves out of it. I think I'm going to get ready to stop because I'm the last speaker, and I know, and you've been bearing through this amazing evening. I want to have ample time for all of the panel to answer your questions, and I look so forward to doing so. Thank you very much, and wonderful to see all of you.
Thank you to all the presenters. There was a lot of information there. And if the commissioners would like to ask specific questions, I think that we should be able to open up the floor right now and do so. I'm not going to start in any sort of order. I probably can see, I'll go for Ms. Commissioner Byers. She has a nice little smile there. She looked like she wanted me to ask her.
I was glad you weren't going in a particular order because I feared alphabetical, which would put me first. Please, somebody else go.
I can skip you and come back if you like. Yes. All right. Commissioner Darvish.
Yes, I can go first. This is a topic that I take to heart, so it's easy, it's natural for me to ask questions or give feedback. First of all of the presentations were amazing. One thing that I picked up was I think with Jamie, yes, I think it was actually Marina that mentioned that face-to-face had a lot of value, and that we see in healthcare too. It's tough with telehealth, the way it does make it easier for us to, FaceTime a caregiver or in this case, a provider that is helping them sort of through telemedicine. Same in any setting, but it takes away sort of that personal touch that I think Marina mentioned, that you go there in their space, there's more trust. I was just wondering how moving forward, I know some of those telehealth will stay, and how is that planned? I guess that would be a different question for different ones, but I think I know the answer from Marina, but there was one, I think Sean was the one that focused on telehealth. I just wanted to hear from him to see if that will continue on, and how would they kind of solve that issue of human interaction?
Yeah, happy to answer. Really good question. Yeah, so we are planning on returning to our normal business hours across all of the center by June. and then hopefully a hybrid of in-person and telehealth by either midsummer or fall. That's obviously like in discussion with all the leadership and stuff, but that's where we're kind of at with it now. But also just to reiterate, it is so important to have that in-person kind of space. While telehealth is like a really great option and I think was really helpful during the pandemic, like there is nothing quite like working with someone directly in person, so.
Can I answer your question, Commissioner Darvish?
Yes, thank you so much. And again, it's a wonderful service provided to the communities, and there's many questions, but there's not enough time, so I'll let others go next.
All right, Commissioner Meltzer, would you like to ask a question?
Well, I wanted to thank you. I wanted to ask Marina a question about technology. Didn't we at any point do anything, or haven't we, to get technology to, now are we talking about people over 65 generally? What is the age range generally of the people who don't have any technology?
That mostly people who are older, 80 and above.
Older? Right, what is older?
80 and above, yes.
And that's mostly, right.
Yes, I'm so sorry. People who are younger seniors, they are more, aware and they use internet and Skype and Zoom and FaceTime, so they are more familiar with those types of services, and it's not that much of a challenge for them. Mostly for people who are older, and especially Russian-speaking seniors. That was real challenge for us to get connected with them. And for example, our activity department, even I'm mentioning it, even though it's not related to mental health services, but still everything is related to mental health, right? Because the more active people are, the less they're depressed, in speaking generally. So our activity department provides a lot of online activities and health and wellness classes and different types of groups and everything for English-speaking people. Russian-speaking seniors, they have access to life at home, but very few of them, maybe 20 people only. And we never provided technology to our clients. We never had funding like that. There was a small funding available to life at home, but really small, like 5 people in the community received Chromebooks. And that's it. And this is something that right now we're looking into. Because, people are getting older, homebound, and what we learned during the pandemic, that it is possible to provide services using just phone and internet and scanned documents and providing everything online, even filling out Section 8 paperwork or renewal for CalFresh. We can do that online for our clients. And we are looking into increasing their access to technology and maybe even hiring a consultant who would go and meet with those people in person and teach them what button to push to get connected to their social workers or therapists or activity department.
But they need the technology. So you're saying
they do. They need the technology. They need internet connection. They need instructions. It's a big challenge. But we are right now looking into it because we learned from the pandemic how important it is.
Okay. I just wanted to hear you say that. Thank you. Thank you, Marina.
You're welcome.
Is that all, Commissioner Meltzer?
No, but does anybody else have any questions for Marina? Maybe we can just, I mean, I'm not sure how, okay, I will just keep going.
I'm kind of letting you go.
I don't have that many questions. I have a question for Jamie. The question is, hi. So much I was looking at your face. You said that you work with a lot of interns, which is great. And people can be in therapy for as long as they need to be. And I know that interns get help, but if they were not interns, if they had licenses already, do you think the time would be shorter? The need would be different in terms of length of therapy?
No, I don't. You know, everyone's mental health process is different, and some are just there for a 6-session kind of check-in or check-up, and some are diving deep and are in therapy for years. Now, we've had the discussion in the past with the therapists, when you are licensed ethically, when do you let your client go? Because they're a steady every week cash flow for you, but at some point you have to say, okay, you're done. You're on your own, fly little birdie, and come back and see me when you need to. And it's an interesting conversation for the students to have. But yeah, there are people that are benefiting from a year, even 2 years. They've cycled through a couple of different therapists in their time with us. So there's some deep issues with long-term survivors, guilt and loneliness, and just everything that goes with surviving a major pandemic. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible. Now you said that you have your offices at Saban.
Correct.
Did you say that?
Yes.
Okay. So David, this is a question for you. Saban provides mental health services, but that's different. Are they two separate things? Because I didn't see Saban, anybody from Saban. So is it?
They are two separate, and Being Alive is located at the Gower site in Hollywood.
Oh,
not
not
Beverly.
the one on Beverly. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Marina, you have to come back. I just have one more question for you. I don't know what the psychiatric community program is. Could you explain that a little bit more for me, please?
Can you repeat your question, please? For some reason, I cannot turn on the video.
Okay. I've never heard of, or if I've heard of it, I have forgotten, the psychiatric community program.
Okay.
Is that a county program?
No. It's funded by the city of West Hollywood. It's a small program, and we can serve. Last year, I think we served 15 people through that program. They can receive psychiatric assistance for 1 year, and then we usually transfer them. We help them to find a psychiatrist, or maybe when they get the, medications, and our psychiatrist helps them to be on medications and they work on the regimen, then their PCP can continue providing the same medications. So it's limited to 1 year per person, but it's available, and I think we already discussed it with our community partners.
Probably.
So if I can add a little bit, Commissioner Meltzer.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
This was originally the Community Psychiatric Referral Program, the CPR program. And this originally was with National Council of Jewish Women. And when they they completely kind of revamped their services, scaled down. We were lucky to have the opportunity for this program to be transitioned to JFS. And it provides access to community members You don't, as Marina mentioned, you don't have to be a client of JFS. They have an MOU with McIntyre House. So it provides access to psychiatric services, psychiatric assessments, follow-up visits, help with medications. And as Marina mentioned, it usually goes for 1 year and they help transition folks to other coverage.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. I just totally forgot or didn't know. That's all I have right now. Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Meltzer. Commissioner Shandrick, do you have any questions or comments?
Sure. First of all, thanks APLA Being Alive, JFS, LA LGBT Center, and Step Up for attending tonight and getting through this challenging year. It was good to see everyone and good to hear your progress. I have first I'll start with a couple questions for Jamie at Being Alive. Can you, I know there's been a lot going on in the community with the organization. Can you tell us a little bit about the move? I wasn't fully aware of Being Alive moving into into Hollywood and Gower with Saban, and how that has worked out, and if you've seen any drops in intake or increase in intake, and how that is going.
We moved in July. Part of it was COVID related with us all getting infected at the same time and feeling unsafe in the space we were in, plus the desire to work closer with Saban and maybe develop a strong relationship with them. They had space available. The rent was much cheaper for us. They have a cleaning staff, so we don't have to clean our own bathrooms anymore. There are windows in the building. So it's a number of issues, but mostly for us as staff, it was a safety issue and the savings of money, of course, and the opportunity to forge a stronger relationship with Saban. As far as intakes, I can't tell you. Compared for the last year, we've had a very limited number of intakes. Normally we would have 25 to 30 a month. And right now we have 7 or 8 maybe that are walk-ins. That I think will increase as we do more outreach in the area with our SSP to get people connected to service. But yeah, I can't compare at all with where we were just being at this location for our first year in the middle of a pandemic. Yeah. So I'm not skirting your question. I just can't answer it correctly.
Yeah, no, completely understandable. And it's a big move. And I know Being Alive was started in West Hollywood. So just wanted to acknowledge that and open space to hear more about that.
We'd love to be back if the city can maybe open a nonprofit campus somewhere and have several of us together in one space. David smiling there.
That would be nice. Just real quick, Jamie, you talked about the success of telehealth. Just wanted to hear about how you're thinking about well, maintaining it or transitioning it into a hybrid or going back to a full model, and what kind of decisions factor into that.
It will continue to be an option, but like I think pretty much everybody else said, you can't replace the in-person facial expressions and body language during one-to-one therapy. I know they do as good a job as possible creating a one-to-one sort of environment during their sessions, but for most cases, I think in-person is better. We have the new site. We have talked about how to share their mental health space when not in use. So it will mostly come down to how do we schedule their rooms when they're vacant around our schedule. And our old space, of course, we had 7 therapy rooms and the keys to the building. So we had 24/7 access Saturday and Sunday, and now we have to abide by the hours at the clinic. So we're pretty much Monday through Friday, 10 to 6 or 8 to 6. And then telehealth will fill in the rest of that if that's the only other option. We're still learning and growing with them.
Yeah, great. Jamie, thank you very much. A question for Marina with Jewish Family Services. Did JFS do a small test with a technology test? I'm recalling, I think it was before the pandemic, with a set-top box that went on the television that was kind of like a Zoom tele check-in or telehealth.
Honestly, I don't remember, and I don't know. And besides, when the pandemic started, I was not in the office. I was on medical leave, and I came back only on May 1st. So maybe there was something, but I'm not aware of that. I'm sorry, I cannot answer that question.
Okay, thank you. And then similar question, it seems like you were able to really pivot and engage the transport volunteers, as well as bring on some new peer advocates in making telephone calls and check-ins and such. Do you plan on continuing that or going back to in-person or kind of a cross between the two?
We are planning to go back to in-person transportation assistance because it's a very much needed service.
Yeah.
But all our matches, they form a very good, close relationship, which lasts for years and years and very cherished by both volunteers and clients. And I think that in itself is already great emotional support for our clients. And meeting with them in person, very often the volunteers not only assist clients with like grocery shopping or going to a drugstore, but they go to Starbucks and have a cup of coffee and they communicate. And, you know, during pandemic, they were doing amazing things, those volunteers. They were, as soon as our clients became fully vaccinated, they were inviting them over to their family celebrations and holiday celebrations. That was very rewarding for them and obviously reduce social isolation. So yes, we are going back to face-to-face.
Great. And my last question is just for all of our partner agencies here, and Clifford brought it up. Thanks, Clifford, for talking about the importance of collaboration and synergy amongst all of the groups here tonight. Obviously, one agency, it's a larger issue and a more complex issue for one agency to handle. Is there anything, if the organizations want to share that, positive or negative, that can be done to continue to enhance collaboration amongst our partners in the mental health space?
Commissioner Shandrick, are you directing that to anyone in particular or all 5 of the respondents?
All 5 if they have thoughts to share.
All right, thank you. Any thoughts from any of my presenters? Jamie.
I know we love referring to other agencies where there's a need that we can't fulfill. Like knowing that Sean has IOPs available at the center is awesome. For Cliff to have a Korean speaking therapist or a sign language, someone who speaks sign language, that's amazing. It would be a great opportunity for us to send somebody there because we have neither of those. So we love collaborating.
and I'll take you up on that. I wanted to think I'd be remiss not to say that we will provide unlimited psychotherapy to clients once we will engage in psychotherapy prior to enrollment, billing COS. So that is something that we have offered continuously. And I think really the collaborative spirit is really having that desire and that interest to really reach out and to really understand what the services are that our co-contract agencies provide, and actually be on the premises. You know, we've been at Plumber Park, we've been at, you know, with that APLA, we've been at our various contracted agencies, and we've learned about them. So I really, and my staff are very curious about these agencies can work. It's in our best interest to learn about these agencies so we can provide it to our clients. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Shandrick, does that satisfy you're done? Commissioner Byers, have I given you enough time?
Plenty.
You looked so ready in the first part of it. Now you're ready.
And so many people have helped me ask my questions, so I appreciate that. So much of what I was also curious about has been answered, but this question may be more aptly directed at staff. But I was wondering about sort of the outreach models that everyone's taking. I was concerned to hear that there's been sort of a significant drop off in some of the intake that was expected or has been typical. And just, you know, as a young person who's talking to a lot of young people about how to navigate this type of service need for themselves, Google would be the first place that we go. And I'm wondering if Google is the best way to facilitate trust building across the type of, you know, support that people are actually looking for. And just curious to hear from the staff or anybody from the panel about what that type of outreach looks like and where opportunities could be made to do that public education around this type of service network that we've really fostered in the city in better ways.
So I'll jump in, but I'll certainly let the agencies answer. When this panel speaks of outreach, we're primarily speaking of street outreach to our unhoused community members,
right,
who may not have access to the internet. So we worked with the agencies to find creative and, most importantly, safe ways of conducting outreach. But they did see, you know, significant drops, not only out of, you know, safety and precautions, but they also saw, which you'll see when we bring the mid-year report, they saw changes in just the presence of our community members who, you know, either access the street economy or they're unhoused. We heard from a lot of our trans community providers that there wasn't the presence anymore of the trans community, not like it was prior to COVID. So certainly they can join in, but I wanted to be clear that when we talk about outreach services, for the most part, we're talking about street outreach.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Commissioner Myers, are you?
I saw Cliff jump in, so I wanted to hear what Cliff responded to.
I don't think I gave voice to some of the barriers that our clients experienced during COVID. And so we have an HIV pilot program, and it was anemic over this past year. And what we noticed is that COVID really exacerbated the mental health symptoms that our clients were experiencing. It was even difficult and challenging to complete the CES packets, the coordinated entry system packets. Their clients were so anxious that for them to really sit still with us, it was difficult. And, you know, we had that brick and mortar location, which was an amazing, innovative plan that the City of West Hollywood rolled out, launched out, I think well over a year ago, where the various programs here would meet at the City of West Hollywood Library, this location with a private room that was conducive to privacy, HIPAA regulations, and we could do CES packets. We do some psychotherapy there if time permitted. We've lost that. That was a place where clients could converge and meet. I think with our population, it's really word of mouth, and there's really definitely a culture. There's a homeless culture that's very much intact, open air community culture. And so I think I like your thinking about Google and technology, and we certainly would implement that, and we do when we find it appropriate. But most of our community members don't really have access to that, regardless of age. Not just seniors, but there are plenty of young folks who may be technologically savvy, but their paranoia may prevent them from really utilizing their various devices. And so these are some of the barriers that we are trying to disassemble. Thank you.
I have a question related to that.
Go right ahead, then,
Sorry.
Commissioner Melzer.
No, happy.
No, I don't understand. It seems to me that for all the other providers, people do have technology. They're not necessarily, it's not necessarily just people who are living on the street. They do, all the other programs, they do have technology. So to Commissioner Byer's point, and some of them are young people too. So I'm not quite sure, I'm confused about why it can't be done with some of the, many of the clients.
So once again, when we're speaking of the outreach services, we are talking primarily about working with our unhoused community members. They don't have as much access to technology as our housed community members. And as Clifford mentioned, many of them have other barriers in place that prevent them from successfully using technology. We had a program.
I didn't.
Go ahead.
I didn't realize that all of the other, that we were discussing that with all of the programs here tonight. I just thought that was just step up on second. So, my mistake.
No, it wasn't a mistake. Just to clarify, because the question was about outreach services. And these
sorry, Commissioner, I'm sorry, David.
These folks who are here this evening, the outreach services they provide are street-based.
And my commissioner was or my question was about outreach and just how people access or find out about these services being available. So outreach, a proactive stance, but also just promotion, marketing, where on social media could people find these things if they were to look there, that type of broader way of outreach about these things. Maybe outreach isn't the best word for that, but I was just curious to hear about in what ways we could be better promoting these services if there's big drop-offs and who is accessing them at these times.
And it's an ongoing conversation. My first response would be that we just completed a citywide mailing of a trilingual social services brochure. We have each of the agencies, when we entered into this contract cycle, received additional funding for outreach and marketing. So they each have their plans. And you'll see when we go into, Commissioner Byers, when we go into the RFP process, part of the proposal is for the agencies to state very clearly what is their outreach and marketing plan. So we do look, it's a combination. We look for the agencies, that they dedicate some of their funding for that. And then as this commission has been very involved, we, the city also provides many different kind of methods of outreach, including now the printed brochures and the online and social media.
Thank you. That's the answer I was looking for. Thank you.
Is that all you would like to talk about? Yeah. All right, Commissioner Freiberg. Would you like to have the floor? Do you have any questions or comments?
It's amazing that I still have difficulty getting off mute. Like, that blows my mind. I just want to thank you all for your presentations. This is a issue that I take very seriously because I think it affects us, all of us, in every way in life. I think Marina and Cliff had mentioned that everybody has anxiety, everybody loses a loved one, everybody has, not everybody has job loss, but people have job loss, social isolation, victims of a crime, medical issues, blah, blah, blah. Everything starts from the mind. So if we can get help for our residents, we can make them a lot happier, and maybe they won't go on that snowball road, to substance abuse and all those other things. if we could provide them with the care. But then you have 43 years ago, Rosalind Carter started her mental health campaign to stop the stigma of people thinking, you know, oh, if I go there, I'm crazy. Yet that still happens today. Like if I called you a mental case, that would be a bad thing. But we're still advertising and saying, you know, do you want mental health? Mental health, you know, I mean, it's a bad word and words matter. You know, it's like you don't say people are disabled anymore. You don't say people are illegal alien. Why? Because words matter. So before I go rambling on and on, I like that Jamie Baker called out David about getting services into the city, and I'd like to nudge that. You know, if we could just, it would be great if the city of West Hollywood could just rebrand this and we can make them, everyone's going to their personal trainers. Why don't we get them going to their life trainers? Because that's what this is about. This is stuff they don't teach you in school. They don't teach you how to deal with everyday life. Like I said, just anxiety in general, which I think, you know, a lot of people are going through social isolation and all of that. And I just would love, and since we have the services, if we could just get everyone together and just really rebrand this and then just like throw out a mailer here and there. And I'm sure, you know, we could come up with other ideas. And, you know, Commissioner Byers kept mentioning outreach, and that's something that I feel is super important. So I think that was going to be one of my questions is how do you find your people? Do you guys ever deal with suicide hotlines? Do they ever send anybody your way? Do you get referrals? You know, do you really advertise that your services are free? Because that's really important, especially, you know, let's say somebody loses a job, which is a big thing that's going on right now. They're probably freaking out. They have no money. They can't even afford the $20. You know, that's a lot to them. So I think really advertising something in a positive manner, because you drive down Santa Monica Boulevard, what do I see? I see some billboard with some model with a dismal look, and it's the County of Los Angeles advertising mental health. I mean, I don't want to look like that guy. What kind of services are they doing? You know, like, is that the end point? Looking like that? Because I don't want to look like that. That's not a happy place. So I think it's just a rebranding, and just I think we would really do our residents a good service if we could get this going off the ground and do something to really push this, because everything stems from the mind, you know? And like I said, we want our residents to be happy. So I guess my question is now all over the place, but maybe we could start with how many clients everyone actually has, because I don't know the size of your services. So I can't even, like, I just have no clue. So if maybe each of you could give a estimated number of how many people that you service, including the groups, which I was really happy to see that you had a lot of groups. That was really impressive. I didn't even think of that.
David, is there a possibility you might answer that without having each one answer, or?
Just like a quick rundown.
Well, we can give you, Commissioner Freiberg, we bring a mid-year and a year-end report to the commission that has, we report, each of the programs provides a quarterly program report that they report on West Hollywood community members and then total projects. So West Hollywood and the broader area. And at the mid-year report that we just brought, there were I think it was 9,177 community members had access service. So that's throughout all of social services, not just mental health.
Right.
So that report's going to be coming to you in June. And so we can go over it a little bit more in detail, but you will get the numbers.
Yeah, I guess it's just because I'm new and I'm not really super familiar with all of their services that I don't know the number estimates of how many people they actually serve. But can I go back to my question about, do you work with suicide hotlines at all? Do we have any connection to that, or do your services have any connection to that?
I'll let the agencies weigh in.
I need an agency, any agency.
Anybody?
John.
John, go ahead and speak to that. I'll come in after.
Oh, sure. I mean, we just to clarify, Commissioner Freiberg, you're asking like, do we work like directly with any suicide hotlines?
Yeah, because I feel like suicide hotline is pretty popular. Like I remember this from back in the day. And so I'm just wondering, if they're super popular, let's say, or a lot of people know about them, if they actually refer people to you, would they do that? Do they do referrals like that, or do they?
I'm not, I can't speak for those organizations. I know for the center, like I'm a associate marriage and family therapist. So like when I'm working with a client or any other clinician at the center, like if there's any kind of risk or red flag for suicidality, whether those are passive thoughts or a plan, even, we always give lists of different suicide hotlines that are in the city. We have specific ones that are for youth. So we refer a lot to hotlines and advertise them, I guess, in that way. But in terms of directly working with them, there's not any that I think we directly work with or partner with.
Okay. And then also just one more question. Do you guys have late night hours and weekend hours as well for services?
Yeah, our organization, I mean, for example, we have some clinicians that work weekends, like Saturdays. So we'll have mental health services that are available on Saturdays for clients whose, schedules kind of align with that. Sundays, I believe we're completely closed. And then we're open until, or planning to stay open until 8 p.m. again, which we were pre-COVID. We reduced those hours with the pandemic and been kind of gradually increasing as the numbers have gone down.
Okay.
I can add, I can answer Commissioner Freiberg's question about addressing suicidality in our clients. First of all, Jewish Family Service just recently updated the protocol of addressing suicidality and working with suicidal clients. All of our social workers with master's degree in mental health field in one area or another, either masters in social work, licensed clinical social workers. I am licensed marriage and family therapist. So we know how to assess for suicidality and what steps to take to prevent anything from happening. We would refer to suicide prevention hotline for our non-working hours because we do not work in the evenings or over the weekends. And if we need to develop a system for someone who is at risk for the non-working hours, we would provide them with the phone number for suicide prevention hotline.
Okay. I think that's it. I think basically, I just want to know how we get to these people to help them, like what's the best way? Just like advertising, outreach, as Commissioner Byers was saying, it's just like, how do we get these people? But I thank you all for your presentations, and I'm so glad that our residents have help, a lot of help, and free. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Freiberg. It's a pleasure to have you there.
I rambled a little bit, but I'm all right.
You know what? I'm a rambler. I understand completely. Vice Chair Palmieri, do you have any comment or any questions?
Yes. Thanks everyone for your presentation. Thanks for showing up and sticking around. I have a few things that I just would like to comment on, and there might be one or two questions involved in it, so I can get through this quickly. I've just been doing a lot of reading, and I think all of you that are dealing with mental health really need to start planning ahead for PTSD because of COVID and because of isolation. That seems to be a big thing happening and coming up. So I don't need any remarks on it. I just want to put it out there. Being alive, Jamie, if you can come on for a second. So as I recall, and you did say that you had extended sessions, you start off with 6 and you then go to 18, but then if they still are in crisis or need more sessions, is that how you work it?
No, we start with just a general unlimited number.
Okay.
If they tell us what they need, and sometimes they tell us they just want 6 and they end up being there for a 26 or,
Okay.
or
I
56.
I heard the number 6 and I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't a cutoff. So, you know, when I was looking at your intake, you have to provide an HIV diagnosis. And I know you said that you won't turn anyone away, but what about the partner that is not HIV? They will never be able to give you an HIV diagnosis. So how do you handle that when they're coming to you?
No, on our intake form, it has what your HIV diagnosis is. It's either HIV positive
Oh, okay.
or HIV negative. So,
okay. All right. And, you know, you and I were having a conversation the other day. I called you and just asked you a few questions of what was happening during COVID. And I would just like you to say out loud the number of needle exchanges that you did for my colleagues, because I was stunned and actually very happy. But could you give me the number and the amount of hours you were out there?
for the last one at the AHF on Santa Monica, it was a 4 to 7, it's 3 hours, right? And we took in 3,500 used needles and issued 1,000 in that time period.
Pretty amazing. So that's pretty amazing work. I just wanted my colleagues to hear those numbers. I do, and I also know that you used to be open 24 hours because you have helped me with condoms very late at night sometimes. So thank you for everything that you do. JFS, Marina, I just want to say, I understand that there is barriers for internet, for technology, on and on. But you know, they could get, and I'm sure you know this, but I want to say it, your clients are able to get cell phones through Lifeline. And I've said this once, I've probably said it 100 times. They just need to go to Lifeline. Most of your clients are immediately approved and will get the phone, a free phone, a smartphone, which they can be taught to simply go to Zoom. They don't need to understand the entire internet. You could just put Zoom on their app and let them go in and sign in. And this way you have access to the people that you don't have access to now. And at the end of the day, that's what we all want. And we know you do an amazing job. So we want to make sure that they can see face to face.
Yes, we know about that, and we refer our clients who need smartphones to that service where they can receive free phones. Absolutely, we know that. Thank you.
Great. And I think that the LA LGBT Center, and they take non-LA LGBT also, has, as I remember, has classes on internet, basic classes, and we have transportation through Ambience. So there's really no reason that they couldn't, if they wanted, to have a class. Also, I mentioned this to David, and I just want to say it out loud. They're starting tomorrow. There's a program called EBB, Emergency Broadband Benefit. Go to fcc.gov, and anyone that is getting services will have a $50 credit a month towards their broadband service. It is a finite program, so I think there's however many millions of dollars there is, but once the money's exhausted, the program will be exhausted, but it still could give relief of $200, $300, $400 to the applicants. And from what I understand, it only takes 3 days to get hooked up to it. Collaboration. I understand that there's collaboration is not incentivized, and I understand that, but this body and City Hall and the department really recommend and appreciate anyone that's doing collaborative work. It not only helps us, it helps you and it helps the clients. And I thank you for those that are doing it, and I hope others will participate in it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Paul Mary. And I would like to thank all of the presenters for presenting this evening. And I would like to thank all the commissioners for your very, poignant questions and concerns. So I would like to now move to the next item, if we may. And that would be, if I can find myself here, Trans Can Work report to the commission. And I'm going to pass that to Derek.
Yes, thank you very much. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good, good. Good evening, commissioners, and welcome, Commissioner Freiberg. It's exciting to work with you in this capacity. So to open up this presentation, I'm going to share 2 success stories from the first year of the contract. Transcan Work served a client who immigrated to West Hollywood from an Eastern European country where they feared for their life. The client found it impossible to find a job, and Transcan Work, TCW for short, worked closely with them and featured them in an ongoing webinar series. The client spoke of the challenges they experienced as a trans immigrant looking for work, and eventually TCW helped secure employment at an inclusive West Hollywood employer. The client's now becoming more stable and hopeful of a better life in the US. The second success story I have is a client who is living in their car in West Hollywood. They had trouble navigating social services. The client completed several workshops with the agency and will refer to multiple providers to obtain food, clothes, and other services. The client was eventually hired with a local LGBTQ plus provider, and they're now interested in collaborating with Transcan Work to help more community members in need. So Transcan Work is a nonprofit organization. They're committed to advancing workplace inclusion through innovative strategies in workforce development. They work with corporate, private, and the public sector for training, recruitment, and consultations. The agency is contracted with us to provide employment navigation and job readiness training to transgender and gender non-binary and intersex, TGI for short, community members, and to provide gender diversity training to West Hollywood employers. So the work is twofold. It's to develop and train the workforce, and also to ensure that the companies trained will see the real potential of this workforce and will prohibit any form of discrimination against them. The population the agency serves in West Hollywood is small, but it represents a very diverse pool of clients, mostly people of color who are housed residents of West Hollywood, as well as those who are experiencing homelessness and those who are engaging in survival sex work. During the last RFP process, the community highlighted the growing need to have agency staff with lived experience assisting transgender and non-binary community members. So as a result of that, the city entered into 2 contracts with the Trans-Latina Coalition and with Transcan Work to collaborate with existing providers such as the Transgender Economic Empowerment Program. So there was a slow start at the beginning of the contract. There were goals that seemed unrealistic, so we worked to refine the scope in the first year. We helped the agency build relationships with some of the homeless outreach teams to strengthen that referral process for our unhoused trans community members. And then in addition to that slow start, there was also the pandemic that crippled businesses and many entry-level positions were lost. And also there was no progress made with the training programs, which is on their scope because of the closure of most of the vocational programs. Despite these factors though, at the end of Q4, Transcan Work performed fairly well with the exception of training programs. And then at the end of Q4 of the last contract year, there were staff changes and change in leadership and key staff vacating their positions, which contributed to another stall, another slow progress in the first quarter of the second contract year. Some data was misplaced and deliverables were not being met. So at the end of Q2, which was just recently, you'll be receiving the mid-year report, there was another change in leadership with key staff stepping down from their positions. And I want to point out that this happens, I mean, change in positions happens all the time. There's no issue there. The issue is with the loss of institutional knowledge and confusion of grant requirements, as well as underperformance in really key service categories. So probationary status is a preventative measure that's used by the city to assist the agency with meeting their contract requirements. At the end of Q2, service categories such as intake, training programs, and hiring events were underperforming. So I'm going to highlight some progress to date from the agency. Trans Can Work partnered with the city, as you remember, on the anti-transphobia campaign. An e-learning version of the diversity, equity, and inclusion training was launched and made available to over 1,000 businesses. The agency is now working to replicate that program in other states, and they're seeking accreditation from the Society for HR Management. TCW plans to permanently embed its services at Los Angeles Valley College and Los Angeles Trade Tech. They're going to be working more closely to train companies and employers who are connected to the Hospitality Training Academy, HTA for short, and they concentrate on the hospitality industry, and they're connected with the Staples Center and also other large employment entities. So this is going to provide opportunity for on-the-job training for community members. They're also working with Bank of America on a mentorship to direct employment program, and they're talking to executives of the Bank of America of possibly starting financing loans for transgender entrepreneurs. They're working on a statewide inclusive jobs board, and they're acquiring career fair software to host online virtual events. So they're working with the Human Rights Campaign on a virtual career fair to host 5 events throughout the country, Los Angeles being one of those. And with these events, clients can be connected to over 50 TGI affirming employer groups who are looking to diversify their workforce. They're one of the partner organizations selected by Warner Media to participate in the Access to Action program, which provides training to direct employment on some of their productions. Lastly, the TCW team is reevaluating their outreach strategies in order to bring more clients into service. They're signing MOUs with other agencies such as the Trans Wellness Center, setting up office hours, and building a stronger referral network. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and if I can't answer them, Trans Can Work staff is going to be at the commission next month. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions, and that's the end of my report.
Do I have any commissioner with specific question? Raise a hand. Otherwise, I'm going to go around. All right, we'll start with Commissioner Freiberg. You have to unmute, yeah.
Hey, Derek. Quick question. Did you mention anything about the Chamber of Commerce? I never hear anything about them working with anybody. I mean, I'm just saying that. But do they work to help, just to get local people, local jobs?
Well, local jobs, or working with the agency, because Trans Can Work has been working with the Chamber of Commerce really since the beginning. They hosted the first training, in-person training. It was the day the Public Health Department declared coronavirus an emergency. They held their first training with the Chamber, and actually brought in people, which was great. So, so the Chamber does help promote these events, and they're actually going to help promote a roundtable that they're going to have in June. So yes, they do collaborate.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Vice Chair Palmieri, you're on.
Hold on. This is a quick one. If I remember, did we not give them a supplemental increase?
So
did we not give them
there wasn't
$extra?
a supplement. So last year yeah, it wasn't social services, but I think you might be referring to the anti-transphobia campaign,
okay.
Which there was some money for that specific project.
So there wasn't a $70,000 given. The number could be completely wrong, but for some reason I have a number in my head that they were given in addition to their RFP.
That was Trans Latina.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Anyone else? Oh, Commissioner Shandrick.
So I'm assuming we'll be hearing from them in upcoming meetings. Underperformance of numbers doesn't seem to, be an issue at this moment. I think all numbers are off, whether they're high or low, but it seems to be maybe some capacity issues with leadership and clarifying the grant agreement. What steps are the city taking to move them forward?
Derek, I just got into the call. Hi everyone, I'm the Chief Programs Officer. So if Derek is not able to answer, I'll be happy to answer. I'm the new person.
Well, actually, let me first answer the question about the steps the city is taking. So what the probationary status is that I work even more closely with the agency to help them meet their contract requirements. We're meeting constantly to talk and to strategize. That's kind of the first step, and progress to date seems pretty good. So we're going to keep on with that, and also come back to the next commission meeting where they will report on more progress. Celia, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Derek, you want to talk about their collaboration with JVS on a hiring event?
Yes, yes. So the agency will be collaborating, and Jovan, maybe you might have this information. So the agency will be collaborating with JVS on a hiring event sometime before, I think I want to say July or August, in addition to the Human Rights Campaign hiring events.
Yeah, we are having a program in June. So we are planning along with JVS. We just had a call today to finalize that. So that is in addition to, probably we'll have two programs. One is collaborating with WeHo and Transcan Work and JVS. Another one is more of, I would say, another program with JVS just for, to answer some of the questions for trans entrepreneurship. So we are also focusing on trans entrepreneurship. That is something which we feel is a lot of need, especially during this time. There are a lot of folks who are also looking to start their own business because of the bad credit they have. So that's why, as Derek mentioned earlier, that we are collaborating with banks, and JVS is also helping us in collaborating with a lot of small businesses and banks so that we can position some of our clients in a much better way and provide any kind of support they have. And I know there's been a lot of talk around mental health. That is something that's being addressed as well, and we provide a wraparound services. But Derek, thank you for your presenting out.
Commissioner Meltzer, sorry, the chair just stepped away.
I just wanted to make sure that the commissioners know what JVS is.
Jobs Vision Success, one of our other contracted agencies that provides employment services.
The program name is WeHo Works, and many of you will recognize the program as being facilitated when it's open in the West Hollywood Library.
I just want to point out that my concern when I read the report was the concern that Derek mentioned of the institutional knowledge and the loss of the 4 people is a rather kind of like a steep start to have to climb up. But I do trust the city to work with them, and I do trust the city to be able to help them as much as possible. I would like, if it's possible, for just a quick moment for David to say exactly what the probationary status really actually entails for the newer commissioners, as well as an update for those of us who've been around a little while.
I'd be happy to. So probationary status can be, as in this case, lack of progress towards the agreed upon goals. So the service categories in the scope of services. But we've also, they have used probationary status for agencies who've had issues around fiscal reporting and their fiscal systems. So it really is not meant to be punitive. It's really meant to bring the program administrator even closer in collaboration and coordination with the staff to look at the service categories that they're challenged with, look at creative ways for implementing those services, look at collaborations such as the hiring events with JVS, and just really hopefully to ensure success. In this instance, staff has recommended that they be on probationary status, that the program be starting in May. We will have the team, Celia and her staff, come to each of the commission meetings moving forward through the rest of this contract year. So we're looking at June through September to report on progress towards goal. So it is meant as a way of assisting as opposed to a real punitive measure. And we felt like at this time, at the mid-year, because there's been considerable challenges with a few of their categories, that it was time to do this in order to, our hope is to ensure their success and make sure that we are all comfortable with recommending their contract be renewed for the third year of this cycle.
Thank you. Commissioner Darvish, did you have a question? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip you.
Oh, that's okay. Again, most of us are new as commissioners, and I like the question that that Commissioner Byers and Freiberg had brought up. It was my first question back in March was, I think, a service to homeless was, how do we average? But first, how do we look at the population to see a needs assessment? I'm sure all of that is done, so we haven't seen that, so it's hard to kind of visualize what is fair or not fair, or what population should have been served. But overall, though, this service, as I listened to Derek and Celia and Juwan, that didn't have time to say much, but as we all know, is a lot of needed service. I work in the healthcare industry. Just about 10 years ago, in the hospitals, we had maybe one or two trans nurses, and it was tough. They didn't have the space that they needed, the restroom, or the staff looked at them as which side do they belong to? It was really uncomfortable. Though we're in healthcare and they were giving people caring people, they still had a hard time. I can't imagine out in society how they're treated, in the restaurant or just out and about. But again, thank you for the great service, and we look forward to hearing more every month and the progress. Again, COVID too had an impact on all of us with staffing, people leaving, coming, going, and a lot of depression, and from all levels, from management to staff level. So I don't know the reason for this. We're kind of new to this, but thank David and the team and the staff for giving them a chance and working together to make it better. So thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, Stephen, if I may add, I know you mentioned about the concern of the leadership. So the institutional knowledge is, I've been part of Transcan Work since we started Transcan Work. I've been a volunteer. I was on the board, and now I'm the chief staff officer. And Drian is also part of Transcan Work even today. She's in the advisory board for our Transcan Work. So folks who have left are still part of Transcan Work. Just wanted you to know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, David. I have a question that is if there's not a satisfactory increase in numbers towards goal by September, then is there punitive actions after September, or do we or you bring it back to us in September and say, look, this is what's going on?
Right. The whole point of the probation through September is to ensure that they make significant progress towards all of the agreed upon goals. And if it wasn't satisfactory, then we would look at not recommending for renewal in the third year of the contract cycle.
Okay. I just wanted to make it clear. All right. Is there any outstanding question or comment? Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Celia. Thank you, Jovan, for being here all evening. And we will move on to, I don't even know who I am right now. Let's see. Oh, in the excluded consent item, which is the HIV prevention month. I asked for this to be pulled from the consent calendar and talked about. And I had there were some things in here that just made me like question what's going on. Part of it is on the first page in the first statement. We talk about the different organizations, and then it says community members about their comprehensive prevention and health service options. There's actually no example of what an option looks like. What do you mean by the option word? Is there a plan in place for what's going on, or is it a come as you are kind of thing? I'm confused. I would like to have some kind of an example.
So are you looking, can you point out exactly where you're at, Commissioner Davis?
It's the second paragraph that starts off in recent years, biomedical intervention. I'm at the very end of that, you give me a long list of the agencies who we are currently contracted, and you talk about prevention and health service options, and then you don't let me know any of the options. Are like, what is an option? You know, like if I had an example, I would be able to compute all of this a little better.
So options, and I'll let Derek join me, but so options, what's changed is, as you all know, is the refinement and the much more, all of our biomedical interventions. So medications now are very effective. So folks who are living with HIV, if they're consistent with their medications, they're able to bring down their virus level to undetectable. For community members who are negative and would like to, engage in sexual behaviors that might put them at risk, they have the option of getting on PrEP, which is about 98% effective. So it's the various options that are available to folks who are the target population in the West Hollywood for transmitting or for becoming HIV positive.
All right, that makes better sense. It's in the beginning of the paragraph, but then when you get to the end, it doesn't really, it like makes me think that there's something I'm missing, or that there's an option that I don't understand. So it may be just the way I read it.
I think Derek might have something to add to that.
Well, I was just going to add to that, naming all of those agencies and looking at it, APLA, Friends Research, the LGBT Center, Men's Health, Planned Parenthood, and Saban, they all offer different programs, sometimes in general, other times specific programs, like the LGBT Center has, their Trans Wellness Center. They're well known for their trans health. Planned Parenthood, of course, serves a different population than Men's Health Foundation, different ways of prevention and treatment there. So, yeah, that's kind of what we meant, kind of a range of options for our community members.
Use my imagination on this, kind of like spread it across. And I have another question on the second page, your 8th wave of HIV Zero Initiative Survey on Stigma. It's going to be administered online throughout the month of June. To whom? How? How are we advertising this? Is it going to matter? Because is it numbers that are going to actually match the first 7? Are we doing something that's not going to do us any good?
If I could just answer kind of just briefly, the numbers that we received during Pride, when there was Pride, were phenomenal. And that's the number of people completing surveys. Now, the last round of survey, we did get, the number that we needed of people completing surveys, and that's to make it statistically significant. So I think there's 100 or something. Aaron can clarify that, but we had to do some outreach on Facebook and Twitter and word of mouth, and Commissioner Palmieri helped us out. So, that's the way that we were able to get people to fill out these online surveys. But I think on a perfect scenario, Pride would be where we get the most.
Well, I've been cautioning agencies for years about the Pride and getting their numbers from Pride and getting all their like statistical information from Pride, because it's just like a sitting duck, and so that's easy, and it all comes in 1 month, and so you're getting a specific sample. But the other part of this is now we have no pride. And so and I didn't predict this 15 years ago, but you have no big sample to come at. And you need to get some type of surveys. And it doesn't say that the surveys have been completed. This is going to happen. So you've got like things going on so you can encourage people to take these.
We do.
And it?
We do. And I want to kind of reiterate what Derek said. So when we did the 7th wave of the survey, we didn't have any events and we were under public health orders and we had to do it all online. And yet we were able to get enough completed surveys to make the analysis statistically valid.
Okay.
We do have, there isn't the in-person events, but Arts and Cultural Affairs has a whole program of Pride events throughout the month of June that we'll be able to work with and get the survey out to the participants or the viewers of those of their programming. So there are a number of online Pride events that are happening. As you might be aware, the city did allocate some funding to the Chamber of Commerce and to businesses for some Pride programming, which is yet to be developed, but that's an opportunity as well to get the surveys out. So yes, you're right. It will be, we don't have Pride sitting in front of us where we get literally, thousands of responses, but we should be able to get enough to be statistically valid. And we do have opportunities that we didn't have over when we last did the survey in the winter. So, but with that said, and this has been a focus of the meeting and we do appreciate it. If there are suggestions for, opportunities online for us to get the survey, we'd be happy to take those. So, please, if you've got ideas for us to assist in the outreach for the survey, please reach out to staff.
And I'm going to keep going. I'm sorry. This was rather interesting, but I think it's the county is similar strategies. You talk about 4 pillars: diagnose, treat, prevent, and respond. I've been in HIV the whole 40 years. I'm sorry to announce this, but I'm an older man and I have been here from day one of the HIV and epidemic. And diagnose and treat and prevent all make sense, but respond. What are you talking about when you want to respond to something? Can you give me what does that word mean?
Derek, would you like to respond?
Yeah.
What I can do is pull up the EHE real quick, because this is part of the ending the HIV epidemic plan. It used to be called the countywide strategy to end HIV, I think until 2020. But what actually ended up happening was HRSA wants everybody to follow this ending the HIV epidemic plan. Now, respond. I'm just blanking right now on what that specifically means, but if I can find it real quick, I'll let you know. Otherwise, I can just send an email.
If you will, or
Sure.
email it to the group. It would be nice, but so what they're trying to do is make this like a model for everyone to follow, as opposed to like A following this and B following that, and so you're trying to make it all cohesive.
So the responding is really about kind of public health systems and surveillance and data and kind of government response to epidemics such as HIV.
Would that include like making certain people are compliant with their medications, or would that fall under one of the other pillars?
That would be treat.
Treat. Okay. All right. Just an aside, political little shoe in. I would like to congratulate the mayor for doing what she's doing. That's an added workload, and but I think she'll get a lot out of it, and I'm certain that they will get a lot from her. This is very nicely done. And then your last paragraph, the U equals U. I would like to tell you that was really well done, and it made sense, nicely tied up. It answered a lot of questions, but I did have questions in the other parts of it. And like I said, I've just been in this for 40 years. Maybe I can't see the forest for the trees, but it's definitely worth talking about. So thank you all for indulging me. Patrick.
I just had a couple follow-up questions kind of along the data. I know the HIV zero report and dashboard that we look at pulls in data from a number of sources, mainly county and federal. And I'm thinking how we handled the testing blitz last year, but then I'm remembering I don't think we had a meeting. I just wanted to get thoughts on how do we use the testing blitz numbers? I know we've been doing that before the kind of HIV zero initiative. Is that kind of for our own gauge because there's a lag with county data? And then do you foresee, since we were so concentrated in June around a physical event, is some of the testing data affected?
Well, I'll tackle the first part of your question, Commissioner Shandrick. The testing blitz, we probably started about 12 or 13 years ago. And that was really, that was to offer kind of a snapshot of the epidemic in West Hollywood and for both HIV and STDs. As we all know, West Hollywood is the most impacted municipality, certainly in LA County, one of the most impacted in California. So it was just an opportunity, for one thing, to show to the county how we work with our contracted and collaborative partners to provide really a pretty amazing amount of service for HIV testing and treatment. We took, I could go on, we could bring a staff report to you. There were times when we addressed other health issues, health crises through the testing blitz, when other diseases popped up that were affecting our community and we were able to test and or treat. So it was really just an opportunity to showcase the resources that the city of West Hollywood had, and then certainly to look at the trends, to look at our positivity rate, if we were making any progress with regard to positivity rate for HIV, were we making any progress with positivity rate for other STDs, for syphilis, chlamydia, gonorrhea. And so, I would love to, and maybe, we'll get back in June and we'll bring you the latest of those spreadsheets that show our results, because it was mostly, I think, more informative. I think also, City of West Hollywood, we don't have our public health department, our own public health department. So it was, for me, it was a way to capture, but this is the resources that we provide, and this is what it looks like in West Hollywood. Now, with that said, the big caveat is that the testing blitz happens in June, so we know that there are so many people coming to West Hollywood, outside of our residents. But it was also an opportunity for those folks who come into West Hollywood and don't have nearly the number of resources available to them to get tested in a safe, understanding environment. I think if we all look back, some of us have been, as Commissioner Chair Davis mentioned, in this longer than others. But if I can indulge, I recall a time where it wasn't comfortable to go get an HIV test, and I wouldn't go to my primary care physician. I went to the center. I went to the center where it was anonymous, safe, and they were culturally competent. So I think for us to be able to provide that for the larger community that comes to West Hollywood was also another, kind of the impetus behind having that blitz. So sorry, I gave you probably more information than you want, but I'd be happy to bring, one of the last spreadsheets with the testing results. We would like to, bring that up again, hopefully, Pride 2022.
And so there's no concern because the dashboard data from the HIV Zero initiative is all from the county, from hospitals, from Kaiser to the LA LGBT Center. So that data is being collected, and I know there's I think a 1 or 2 year lag before we get it. So we haven't quite seen the pandemic, how the pandemic has affected this initiative yet.
Correct. We continue to collect data from our strategic partners. And then, as Derek just mentioned, we continue to get the data through the county, HIV EPI, but that data, CDC requires that the data, what they call mature, for 2 years. So it's 2 years behind what we gather from our partners. But we are still able to do that, and we should be able to do it in a timely manner. Some of those numbers, we have seen with our medical providers, and you'll see in the mid-year report that some of the numbers have gone down because people were not comfortable to go into clinics and get health care, but there's still, we're still providing HIV and STD tests to thousands of tests and, numerous cases of treatment.
Great. And I'll just end in saying, I know the testing blitz, I just feel it's a good snapshot for us and its immediate data. And sometimes with the lag in data, it's important to get a sense of what's happening on the ground.
Thank you.
And if I could just add to that, Commissioner Shandrick, the center is really great about sharing data with us and letting us know if there's a spike or an increase in things like syphilis or gonorrhea. So having kind of those relationship with our testing partners, it's good for us because they can let us know right away if there is something going on.
Okay. Back to the agenda. Items from staff. David? Or Derek? Or Joan? Oh my goodness, everyone started popping up.
I'll start out by giving the update on the provision of COVID-19 emergency support services. For some of the commissioners who've been here for a while, some of this it's not a repeat in data, but some of the descriptions, I wanted to give a little bit more detail for our newer commissioner members. So we've been doing this since COVID. Staff has been providing a report each month on the delivery of COVID-19 emergency support services, and they include the following. First, the grocery delivery programs with the help of MV Transportation, American GTS, and Ambiance, and through coordination with Project Angel Food and Jewish Family Services, the city has delivered over 68,000 meals and packaged grocery orders since April to vulnerable community members, which include those aged 62 and older and/or community members living with a disability. And this was April of 2020. Rental assistance. Since the program's inception in March, the city has funded over 1,800 grants to over 500 households. Eviction prevention and legal defense. Through coordination with Beth Sedek, the city has provided mediation services and initiated an eviction defense program for renters. There have been 100 cases since the program's inception. We had a heat mitigation program that started actually this time last year. So we'll see what happens with our cooling centers. But since the cooling centers were unable to be open last year, we had a heat mitigation program. So through coordination with American GTS, the city has delivered more than 100 fans and cases of water to community members who would have otherwise utilized the city's cooling centers during the heat waves last year. Emergency fare credits for on-call transportation program to facilitate access to essential services during the pandemic. The city provided $100 in program credits to active participants in the city's on-call transportation program, which serves the city's senior and disabled residents at no cost to the participant. A little bit more detail for some of the programs. The Alliance for Housing and Healing, their Aging in Place rental assistance program. To date, they have received emergency support services funding in the amount of $308,820. As of May 11th, 2021, 282 grants have been awarded, and that breaks down to 100 participants received a first month grant, 79 participants a second month, 51 a third month, 37 a fourth month, and 15 a fifth month grant. National Council of Jewish Women, they have received emergency support services funding to date of $1,565,926 as of May 11th, 2021. They have provided 1,558 grants. The breakdown for that is 473 first month, 425 second month, 376 third month, 203 fourth month, and 81 fifth month grants. Project Angel Food has received an emergency support services funding, $278,254. That was broken down to both CDBG emergency funding and general funds from the city. They have brought on 165 participants to receive emergency home delivered meals since the onset of COVID. Jewish Family Services Nutrition, they've received $14,971 in emergency support services funding to date. As of the end of last contract year, 1920, they brought on 111 additional participants to receive emergency home delivered meals. And finally, as I mentioned, Bethesda Legal Services, they have received $188,658 in emergency funding, and they have brought on 100 community members into their eviction prevention and defense services program. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Does anyone have a question? Or, I mean, it's really overwhelming to think about what the size of our city is, and then the size of the pandemic. So how much of this is going on all over, and how many don't actually have access, not necessarily in our home.
So I want to, as always, just thank our community partners. The work that all of the agencies are doing is truly extraordinary. Anyway, so I want to thank them. And truly, I want to thank the program administrators, especially Derek, Joan, well, all four, Derek, Joan, Leslie, and Katie, because they've all been very creative in working with our partners to get these services out to the community. And it's been a real testament to the dedication of the agencies and to the staff. So thank you all.
I would agree. Jimmy, did you have?
Yeah, there's so much information tonight. Forgive me if you said this already, David, but what is left of rental assistance?
Funding wise?
Yeah.
So we have, and this is off the top of my head, but council just asked this, and I had to do the same thing. We've gotten, Leslie and Derek, you can correct me, but with NCJW, we have just under $300,000 left to get us through the rest of this fiscal year, which is just through June. And then with the Alliance for Housing and Healing, I believe we have just about $80,000 left to get us through the fiscal year. We're on course to be in a good place. Council has begun to ask about allowing a sixth access to funding. If that, if council, if that's the direction, then we may have to go back and ask for more.
Was that all, Jimmy? You're muted.
You're muted, Jim.
Okay. All right.
I'm
David,
not through. I muted myself by accident.
Oh, okay.
David, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does it incrementally go down? I don't remember. I think 1 is 1,000, 2 is 1,000, and then does 3, 4, and 5 go down a percentage wise as far as assistance?
It does not, but in, gosh, you guys, I'm getting the dates wrong. But when the eviction moratorium, when the direction changed with that, and the tenants were only expected to cover at least 25% of their rent. So we went from, the structure for the program went from covering up to $1,000 towards rent to covering 25% of an individual's rent, when we restructured it, we also put in place that folks who were low income could receive additional funding based on their income, and also folks who had dependents could get additional funding. I can tell you that the average grant amount went from, I think it was about $900 with the original version, and it went down to about $650 a month once the limit was 25%. And that was to be in line with the state eviction moratorium.
All right, and then do you suppose you'll be asking council for more?
It came up at the meeting before last. We really are looking, for council's direction.
Okay. Interesting.
As I said, the estimates were good for the current structure. We have enough funding to get through the end of June.
Okay. Interesting.
There are other, in addition, we make sure, and NCJW and the Alliance are really good at letting folks know of other opportunities, because the state had their rent relief program that was quite generous. And so we would make sure that folks who were still in need and maybe had access, 5 times from the city, that they were submitting applications to the state. Now, I believe, and Leslie can correct me if I'm wrong, that the state's program closed at the end of April as far as applications. But we also just got notice that there is going to be additional assistance through the federal dollars. We're just getting the information on that.
Great. Thanks, David. I appreciate it.
Anyone else for David? David, Leslie, did you have, are you done, David? Would you like the rest of the staff to go, or do you have more?
I am done. I think there might be other program administrators that have announcements.
And I see smiling Leslie there in the corner of so we'll go to Ms. Eisenberg.
I actually don't have anything except to just remind you that council proclaimed May a senior month at their meeting on the 3rd. And the Senior Advisory Board will be televising their meeting this month.
Excellent. Excellent. Derek, anything? Joan?
Just a quick welcome to Commissioner Freiberg, and it'll be nice to be able to continue to see you.
Cool.
Thank you, Joan.
All right. Do I have any other public comment, Ms. Secretary?
Chair Davis, it looks like Yola's in the room. Yola, did you want to make a public comment, or are you here to listen in?
Actually, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I would like to say it's a joy to be with you. And along that line, I'd like to congratulate Commissioner Freiberg coming from our Disabilities Board to this commission. I think she'll represent the disabled community with reverence, with joy, with every positive avenue. And I think she'll make a wonderful addition to this commission. I've really enjoyed listening to you tonight. I'm so happy that you brought up the subject of mental health. And I hope we'll continue to hear about things like this at all of your meetings. I wish you the best. And in closing, I'd like to share a bit of special news with you. While you were between meetings, I have now become a great grandmother. So you can call me GGY.
Excellent, Jola. That's excellent.
Thanks.
So it moves us to items from the commissioners. This is so anything you would like to talk to me about, and we'll start with Commissioner Meltzer.
Anything I'd like to talk to you about?
No, not necessarily.
No.
About. Okay.
Just a couple of things. Welcome to Commissioner Freiberg. And congratulations, Yola. That's wonderful news. And about Senior Month, I have trouble saying that. The board meeting, I was at the last board meeting, and it's going to be live. And Leslie, I think I'm correct when I say that Maureen Feldman will be speaking, and Maureen is an expert in social isolation and loneliness. And since that came up so much tonight, I suggest all of you watch the Senior Advisory Board meeting that will be televised, because I think you'll learn a lot. And did Judy Free come up, Leslie, the movie, the documentary, at the meeting at all? No? Okay. So anyway, I encourage everybody to watch it, to watch a Senior Advisory Board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Meltzer. Commissioner Darvish, do you have any comment?
I do. I wanted to welcome Commissioner Freiberg. We're really excited that you joined us, and I can't wait to see everyone in person. Can't tell you how tired I am of Zoom meetings, days and nights and weekends for the last year and a half. But I do have a comment to make about a survey that came out that I was really excited to see from our city. And it was the pet tribute survey to sort of get feedback from the community to know if something positive that the city should do, maybe a place in a park as a tribute for our loved ones or best friends that passed away. Myself was a dog owner, or she owned me actually, and I didn't own her, but she passed away. And I could see that whole process was so hard, and not many people are or understand what you go through that phase, unless they're they have a best friend like I did. But so I was excited to see that and proud of our city for looking hopefully to do that. I also attended a virtual town hall on law enforcement interactions with people who have mental health conditions or developmental disabilities. And this was for LA County. I think the invitation came from Tori Berger from Public Safety through David that forwarded to all of us. I was really touched to hear the family members to talk about the experience when the police showed up and what went wrong in that case. And myself as a healthcare provider, healthcare professional for 30 years, I made a public comment, and we need more and more. It was just a reassurance that we need more support in this area for mental health. Nothing that the police is doing wrong. I don't want to take sides, but obviously our police force are trained to protect, to take charge. And in those cases, they go to somebody's house with a disabled kid or mentally not developed, and they may have some training. So it was tough for me to hear the emotions from the families of what happened in that scenario. And we're lucky that we have MET in West Hollywood. So this was a countywide town hall. So again, just as a commissioner, that really glad that I attended and participated, and hopefully they'll have more of those, and we'll have some discussions about what do we do in this model with our police responding, not just in LA County, but all over the country, responding to those situations. And we're putting them in the wrong position too, the police force themselves, because they're not trained in that way. And even a professional that has a license sometimes has a hard time to manage those kids or adults with those disabilities. So again, hoping that we'll see that on the agenda, and was delighted to see a lot of mental health coverage and services from the city tonight being presented. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Darvish. Commissioner Byers.
Thank you. I just also want to extend a really hearty welcome to Commissioner Freiberg. Really excited to be working with you in this space. And thank you all for a really great conversation. The mental health discussion tonight was really eye-opening, and I'm just thank you for how long it went on, and the format. I thought the panel was really fabulous way to present so many different voices and see a really comprehensive network of approaches versus just sort of siloing off organization by organization. I thought the format was really conducive to seeing things as they ought to work together. And I'm appreciative of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Shandrick.
Yes, welcome, Commissioner Freiberg, to the Human Service Commission. I just want to give a shout out. I've been following a lot of the Senior Month, Older Adult Month social media activity from WehoCares, and I think they've been doing a really good job giving tidbits of services and opportunities and ways to engage the community. So I thought that was very successful, and trying to amplify that as much as I can in my network. And then thanks everyone for their work. It seems based on numbers and things, we're getting through this. So I do have an element of hope. And lastly, I attended one of the housing element meetings today. I think Commissioner Byers was on the meeting as well this morning. And they ended it saying that the city is exploring a one-year research project about bringing services, housing, possible homeless service day center into the city. So I know, I think that's a grant from one of the HHH or HH measures. So since that seems to be more formalized, I wanted to see if in an upcoming meeting we could get a little bit more information on that project. And that's it for me. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Commissioner Freiberg. You're on.
Here I am. Thank you all for the warm welcome. I appreciate it. Congratulations, Yola. And thank you for the well wishes. I want to thank Mayor Horvath for, I'm going to fly through this. I want to thank Mayor Horvath for swearing me in, Councilmember Shine, and Mayor Pro Tem Meister for giving me the honor of serving on this commission and being able to help my fellow residents. I want to thank Commissioner Borelli for his service. I was looking forward to working with him. Sad he's not here. I want to thank Commissioner Meltzer for the conversation that we had, bringing me up to speed, as well as Chair Davis and Vice Chair Palmieri for helping me today, and David, of course. I want to thank all the presenters, Lydia, Jamie, Marina, Sean, Cliff, Derek, hi Derek, and Celia. And I was thinking about future agenda items, and since we're speaking about mental health, I know one of the West Hollywood strategic goal is to adapt for a future change. Well, we have a lot of people who are not moving out of our city because we have the greatest city. And so we have the baby boomers, long-term HIV survivors, you know, a single head of household, Russian-speaking residents, Gen X on their tail of retire. Sorry, I'm a little tired. Coming to retirement. So I think, you know, these services for seniors are really, I hate that word too, Commissioner Meltzer, but are really important. I think we should put something for dementia on the agenda, for a future agenda. I think, I know we have the booklet and everything, and I wanted to push the booklet as well as Trilingual. But I think we need to know more maybe about the city services, the county services, and the state services, but also a way to educate our residents, because I know somebody in my building and he is completely lost all the time and I don't know how to deal with him. So I'm sure other people don't know how to deal with him, and I don't want anything to happen. And he is now being taken care of by family, but what if he didn't have family? What is he going to do? You know, so I think, you know, with all of these people, you know, reaching certain ages, you know, and dementia is really, it can be really terrible. And Commissioner Meltzer and I were speaking about this, so she knows how it can really destroy families and people. I really would like the city to kind of take on a rebranding of mental health services, get rid of the stigma, more of life trainers kind of coping with life skills. if we could push something for that. And then the last thing would be, I've been pushing for N95 COVID masks since day one, and I wish we could get one to every person in our city. We also have the wildfire smokes that keep coming, and they're going to be coming back again, and the cloth masks don't work. So anybody with a asthma, respiratory problem is going to have a really big issue, and you can't really hide from smoke. And I think that's it. So thank you all for welcoming me in such a warm way. I really appreciate, and I look forward to working with you all.
Excellent. Vice Chair Palmieri.
Thanks, Stephen. I'd like to welcome Commissioner Freeberg. It's really nice to meet you, and it was great having a meeting with you this afternoon. The pet memorial that Adam brought up, I want to mention again, I fully support this. I hope that council actually does something with this, because I know it came and went at one point. There's a lot of us that did lose animals, and there was nowhere for me to put a memorial plaque for my dog. And I was telling people in the meeting this afternoon, so I had her name on my hand because the city didn't offer anything other than a leaf on a tree at Paws LA, of which I've never used. So I'm hoping that they will actually do something like that. David, you said that there was some HIV testing stigma way back. Even 11 years ago or 10 years ago when I was on here, if you remember, there was what's the place that was on by the bank where Linda used to work?
Right, it was the version of the center's sexual health program.
So if you remember, they were saying that because we didn't have parking, that their numbers were down, and it was specifically because of parking, because people didn't want to get their ticket stamped, if you remember. So the stigma is maybe less now, but it still existed even only 10 years ago. That's all I have. I just wanted to mention that and welcome Joy.
Okay. Before I close the meeting, I just want the six of you and myself to look around. We are now the commission. We are a full complement, and we are going to have a lot of work and a lot of time with one another. There is nothing in the book that says you may not speak to one another and help each other and make friendships or etc. So I would like you to know that my phone number and my email address, if it's not published in about 10 or 12 places, David should have it. I will be glad to help anyone, and I'm certain any one of us would be glad to help any one of us. So welcome, kind of look around, get used to each other. And I'm really sorry this went 3 hours, but when I got the packet, it was so nice and slim, and I thought, oh my God, this is going to be a walk. And then I started reading the packet going, oh my God, this is not going to be a walk. So anyway, thank you all very much. I adjourn the meeting at 8:51 p.m. and we will see you all in June. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.